Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulil kareem, amma ba'd. So alhamdulillah, last time we talked about regarding the blowing of the trumpet, yunfakhu fi sur, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the command to the angel. Which angel was this? We said there's the angel Israfil alayhi salam, by the consensus of the ulama, ijma', even though there's no clear hadith mentioning regarding Israfil alayhi salam doing this, but it's the ijma', everyone kind of is consensus that this is the person, or this is the angel that will be blowing the trumpet. How many times we mention? A few different riwayats we mention, a few different narrations, but most likely two according to the Quran, and I mentioned regarding the Quranic ayats and the hadith as well, on both of them. So these are what we've covered so far. Now the question comes about is regarding, if everyone dies, or once the trumpet is blown, is everyone going to die? Who's not going to die? Are the angels going to die? So this is a very a question that comes up quite a bit, is that and this is a very famous hadith. I say famous hadith, even though regarding the hadith that I'll mention today, it is not as strong and authentic. It's quite weak, but it's very famous. It's very famous, but it's quite weak. And regarding weak hadith, what do we do with weak hadith? We don't put it on the shelf and put it away. So this is not what ulama do with those ones who are studying hadith and so forth. We don't put weak hadith away. Fabricated is fabricated, meaning that's complete lie. It's a complete, that one you put away. That's something fabricated. But hadith, you have different levels. So the different levels of hadith, you have the sahih, you have hasan, you have hasan sahih, hasan gharib, and so forth. The different levels of hadith. And then you have the weak hadith as well. And in the weak, there's got high weak and low weak and so forth. But the weak hadith, what do we do with weak hadith is, yes, we can't establish something with a weak hadith. You can't do a fard with a weak hadith. This is not right. But with a weak hadith, you encourage people. You can use it for encouragement of doing something good. So you can use weak hadith. It is completely consensus of ulama. All majority of ulama say you can use weak hadith, but for the encouragement of purposes. So those ones, for example, you come to the salah, you can use a weak hadith there, even though there's strong hadith there and so forth, but you can use one which is to encourage people to come for the masjid or something like that. So this is weak hadith. In this weak hadith we'll mention some of the different things which mention regarding the descriptions of Qiyamah and regarding the angels, whether they die or they don't die as well. So some of the ulama mention regarding that all the angels will also die. Just when the trumpet is blown, so Israfil is an angel as well. So is he going to die? Will he die at the same time while blowing the trumpet as well? What will happen to the trumpet? Will that perish? What will happen to the arsh of Allah? What will happen to that? What about those angels holding up the arsh of Allah? So these are certain questions. Jannah, Jahannam, what happens there? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, Kullu man alayha fan. You need every single thing which Allah وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ. So everything will be perished except for the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except for the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is their dalil. So the ulama mentioned regarding all the angels who died, kullu man alayha fan. It's very general, very general. Allah mentioned in Surah Qasas as well, kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. Everything will be halak, everything will be destroyed except for Allah, the Zat and the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are very general hadith about everything being destroyed. So does that include the angels as well? These are the question that comes about. The hadith that's been, what I've been mentioning regarding this is that this hadith is mentioned in Ibn Kathir, he mentioned by Tabari, he mentioned Abu Ya'la, Ibn Abi Hatim, Ibn Abi Dunya. These are the ones that mention this hadith and they take from this hadith as well. So this is weak, but this hadith has inside of this, there's got so much verifiable pieces of some of them inside of there. They got Sahih hadith, the authentic hadith are now corroborated with this as well. So there's parts of it which he's filled in, and parts of it which is weak, and parts of it which is strong, if you know what I mean. Because it's a lengthy hadith, it's pages. This hadith is pages long. So I'll mention some of the parts because it's pages long. I'm not going to go through all of it. But some of the parts which have been mentioned regarding this, and this is, you might have heard some of these descriptions of Qiyamah as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creation of the heavens and the earth, He creates every single thing. He will recreate it on the day of judgment. He will hand the trumpet. So when the creation started, Allah created everything. Then He handed the trumpet to Israfil alayhi salam. This is where we get the hadith from, giving it to Israfil alayhi salam. Very clear. And then he is ever waiting. He is now got his lips on the trumpet and is looking towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the sahih part, which is corroborated in other part, but this is mentioned in this week hadith as well. And then the trumpet, the size of the trumpet is so big that it's the size of the heavens and the earth. This is the first time when it gets blown, then everyone will be terrified. The second time when it gets blown, then it also people will feel unconscious and dead. Will feel unconscious and dead as well at that time. And then the third time, which we mentioned, remember the previous time I said the other call, there was 3 different blows. So the third time they mentioned, then everyone will be resurrected again. And when everyone gets resurrected, illa man sha Allah, obviously, when everyone dies, these are 3 times. So the second time when everyone dies, the second blowing of the trumpet, according to this hadith, is then the angel of death will come forth towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will ask everyone, is everyone dead? Everyone is dead. Allah will say, the angel of death will say, everyone is dead, except for Jibreel alayhi salam, except for Mikail alayhi salam, except for Israfil alayhi salam, and for himself. He is the angel of death, Israel alayhi salam, and those angels are holding your throne. They are also dead. So Allah will say to the angel of death, O Jibreel, O Mikael, and he tell them to die. And you take their soul. Okay, who else is left? Okay, this is left. The angels holding your throne. Okay, tell them that they should also die and take their ruh or something. And then he goes one by one, clearing everyone. Then he says, okay, you take your own soul as well. And he comes and takes his own soul, and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is left. Then Allah mentions in the Quran, لِمَنِ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. Whose kingdom is it today? And then Allah will reply, لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the one who is qahhar, yani the strength of the being of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the hadith, and it's long hadith. I'm just mentioning parts of it. You may have heard this online. You may have heard that Jibreel Islam, Ibn Islam. This comes from a weaker hadith, and then maybe if a person wants to use it, but it's quite weak in that manner. But this happens, and this has been there, and this is what Ibn Kathir says. It's very gharib jiddan. It's quite weak in this manner. But again, will this happen? It might happen. We never know, because there's no other hadith mentioning regarding it's not going to happen. But this is what they say, that all angels will die. This is one qawl, this is one interpretation. Let's go to the second interpretation. Second interpretation meaning angels will never die. Angels will never die. And let's bring some hadith regarding this as well. So the ones that I mentioned in the Quran, kullu man alayha fan, everything will destroy. It's a very general one. They're also illa man sha Allah. Means we mentioned yesterday regarding the ayat that everything should die and fall unconscious except for some. So who are the some? Some have mentioned these are angels. Ibn Hazm Andalusi, he mentions regarding in his one, he mentions that no evidence to show that they will die. There's no evidence to show that these people will die. These angels will die. It doesn't really make sense. Why? Because the Jannah is when the death, you got Jannah there. People in Jannah don't die. There's no death in Jannah. So how can, and there's angels in Jannah. So will they die as well? So Ibn Hazm mentions regarding these questions that you got angels in Jannah. There's no death in Jannah. How can Jannah die? Or how can Jannah be destroyed? So Jannah still be there. They'll be part of the exception to the rule, and those angels will also be exception to the rule as well. And the angels were also made there. They made out of light. The Hurun Ain, will they be destroyed? So what's going to happen to them? They said they're all apart from the exceptions. Everything will destroy except for the ones in Jannah, except for the ones in, and so forth. So the angels don't really have a body and soul. What is angels made out of? Light. They're made out of light. So how can you you're taking out a ruh, but there's got nothing there, as in it's light. So what are you going to take out? So Ibn Hazm mentions regarding this. He mentions regarding that this doesn't make sense. So this is one alim is mentioned regarding this. Al-Wahidi mentions in a different one. He mentions that this is you have to use your brain a bit for this one. So when Iblis came to Adam alayhi salam right at the beginning of time, Iblis comes to Adam alayhi salam and he tempts him. And what he's tempting him, what? To eat from the tree. If you eat from the tree, the one he mentions, إِلَّا أَن تَكُونَ مَلَكَيْنِ أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْخَالِدِينَ. If you do this and you eat from the tree, what will happen? You will become like an angel, or you will become immortal. You become immortal. So Al-Wahidi mentions here, it's because the angels live forever. Because the angels are living forever. So do you want to become an angel and live forever as well? So he's tempting them. Iblis is tempting Adam alayhi salam to eat from the tree. So why would you eat from the tree if there's no temptation? So this is what Al-Wahidi mentions. So you've got use your brain a bit there. But this is what he mentions, that angels are living forever. Now the end of the whole discussion is, are they alive, or when they die, does it really matter? It's not a aqidah issue, but it's nice to know this kind of information. So yeah, most likely it seems like either one of the two calls, whether they die or whether they don't die, you can go one side, you can go on the other side. Probably seems like they live forever and they don't die, but Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. In Ghafir, I mentioned regarding the ayat of the Quran in Surah Ghafir, يوم التلاق يوم هم بارزون لا يخفى على الله منهم شيء لمن الملك اليوم لله الواحد القهار اليوم تجزى كل نفس بما كسبت لا ظلم اليوم. In the ayat of the Quran in Surah Ghafir, it mentions very clearly regarding how the people will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they meet the people on the day of mulaqat, and when they're meeting the people on the day of judgment, يومهم بارزون, on that day everyone will be in front of everyone, you will see everybody. Bariz meaning one on one, you'll be not one on one but like opposite each other. لا يخفى على الله منهم شيء, nothing is hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. Then Allah mentions لمن الملك اليوم, yani on that day whose kingdomship is it? Whose kingdomship is it on that day? Allah will, no one is going to reply. No one can reply. Is everyone dead at that time? When did this happen? We'll come up to that. Allah mentions, لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَارِ, Allah is the only one which is living. Allah is the one. Allah is qahar, yani is strong. Al-yawma tujza, yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on that day everyone will get what they earn. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ لَا ظُلْمَ الْيَوْمِ, there will be no dhulm and no oppression on that day. Whatever you have got, you will get. If you've done something rewardable, Allah will give you a reward for it. But if you've done something sin, Allah can give you that, the punishment for that sin as well. So when did this mention? When did he mention liman al-mulkul yawm? When did he say these words? Is it after the first blowing of the trumpet? Is it after the second one? Was it before a different time? Did he say it? Allah say it? Did someone else say it? So some have mentioned it's in between the both trumpets, the blowing of the trumpet, which is very famous, and which is mentioned in the hadith I mentioned earlier on. Or is it after the second trumpet, when everyone is on the day of judgment, everyone is in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So some have mentioned different things. Even Ibn Mas'ud mentions here, Allah didn't say this, but an announcement will be made on the day of judgment in front of everyone. An angel will come and will say, لِمِنَ الْمُلْكُ الْيَوْمِ, and everyone will say, لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kingdomship, control is in Allah's hands. So these are some of the things that we mentioned regarding on the day of judgment, regarding these phrases and regarding the angels as well. The next part which will happen after, which is, what would you think will happen after the blowing of the horn? What's next? What's going to happen next? The second horn has happened. Now, what's the next stage of Qiyamah? The resurrection. So the resurrection is there. So the resurrection is one word. Another word which will be the gathering. So the resurrection and gathering I'm putting into one thing. We call it Hashr. We call it Hashr. There's a whole surah named in the Quran regarding Surah Hashr. So Hashr will come. I'll start off with this part with Surah Hashr. I'll start off with Hashr and what happens at the beginning of Hashr. And then we'll go on to more explanations later on, probably tomorrow. So what happens after the trumpet? We say that it's the Hashr, it's the gathering. So what happens now? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blowing the trumpet. Everyone is now resurrected. What happens here? Number one, what does Hashr mean? Hashara. Hashara is Arabic. Hashr will mean intentionally gathering. So you gather, but with an intention. Next thing, you gather because you've been separated from somebody or from something. So you're gathering because you've been separated. And the third thing, you're gathering for a purpose. These are the three things with Hashr. Hashr means intentionally gathering, who have been separated from each other and for a higher purpose. These are the three things. Everywhere you find inside of the Quran of Hashr, Yuhsharun, he mentions here Hushira. All of these ones have been mentioned inside of the Quran around 35 times. And each and every single one you'll find, there's got these three things inside of it. They're intentionally gathering because they've been separated from something, and they have a higher purpose. So in Surah Naml, he mentioned regarding Sulaiman alayhi salam. When Sulaiman alayhi salam has got his war parade, he wants to get his war army ready. So in his armies are who? What's in his army of Sulaiman alayhi salam? He's got who? Jinns, mankind, birds, so the animals as well. So Allah mentions inside the Quran, وَحُشِرَ لِسُلَيْمَانَ, وجنوده من الجن والإنس والطير فهم يوزعون وحشر لسليمان. What happened? They were gathered. Who was gathered? His army. Army of jinn, army of mankind, army of birds. These are the ones which have been gathered for him. But what have they been gathered? With the intentionally gathered. We've been separated, now they're all coming together. And they have a higher purpose because of their war that they're going to wage. So this is also been happening. This is another dalil for us regarding Hashr. This happens. Another ayat of the Quran regarding Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. So Fir'aun wants to gather with all of his ministers and he wants to let's go and have a challenge with Musa alayhi salam. So when he's having a challenge with Musa alayhi salam, they say, look, when should we do this? When should we gather the people to have a challenge against Musa alayhi salam? قال موعدكم يوم الزينة وأي يحشر الناس. When two meet to each other, isn't it? Yeah. So he mentioned in the Fir'aun and Musa alayhi salam. So Fir'aun, we have Musa alayhi salam, he wants to gather. He says, قَالَ مَوْعِدُكُمْ يَوْمُ الزِّينَةِ وَأَن يُحْشَرَ النَّاسِ. Yani the day when we're going to meet is going to be a day of the festival. And when it's the day of the festival, then this is when we're going to gather the people. Why they're gathering? For an intention. Musa alayhi salam, Fir'aun wants a challenge. But they're gathering because all of them have been separated. Now they gathers all the people of the town and all the people of the city, all the people of Egypt to gather together, all those magicians, and for a purpose as well, to challenge Musa alayhi salam. So this was also there. So this is Hashr. This is what Hashr means. So when you're making a Hashr on the day of judgment, is that you're intentionally gathering, Allah will intentionally gather you to a place. And on top of that, those have been separated, everyone's been separated, now everyone comes together. And thirdly, it's for a higher purpose, it's for the judgment. The judgment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make regarding a judgment. So the trumpet and the Hashr are connected. So the trumpet, when it's blown, and the Hashr, the gathering of the people, is connected. Allah mentions inside the Quran in Surah Taha, يَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي السُّورِ وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَنَحْشُرُهُ al-mujrimeen, I think. So to do with the mujrimins. So on that day, he mentions here that when the trumpet is blown, then the people will gather, and the people will gather together. So the Hashr comes straight after the Sur and the trumpet. So when everyone is gathering on that day as well. And how will it start? How will the Hashr start? You mean, where's the people at that time? So everyone will be on their grave. So the second time when Allah will blow the trumpet, when Allah gives the command to blow the trumpet, everyone will be on a field, like a normal field with grass or something, or a field, and then everyone will be in their graves. Or they'll be in on the ground somehow in the graves. So what will happen is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the command for some sort of rain to come down. A light, gentle, persistent rain to come down on the day of judgment. And it will go all on our bodies which have been decayed, bones, all of our remains, all of the decayed bones and stuff like this. All of the water will come onto those things. And you will see miraculously everyone will start to come back together just like how they were in this world. This is how Allah does it, through the rain. So, and persistent rain, how much rain and so forth, that Allah knows best. But Allah will send down the rain. This is mentioned in Muslim, mentioned in his hadith in Muslim. Allah will send down the rain like a cloud. With this water, the bodies will grow back again. With this water, the bodies will grow back again. So just like the first time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here, وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ دَابَةٍ مِّن مَاءٍ, that every single creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, creature, was created from water. It's from water. Now what does that mean? Water is used in the initial creation of Adam alayhi salam, and also the rest of them as well. All of us, we're from water, some sort of water. This is how we're made. And it's used also in the resurrection time. So there's two types of water. You go back to the original creation of Adam alayhi salam. You had what? You had min tin al-lazib, which is such a muddy water. So muddy water is not dry clay, it's mixed with water. You get clay and then you get water and you get mud. It's muddy. So this is how you get it. Salsalin kal fakhar. It's like then it becomes hollowed out. So water and soil was original materials for the creation of insan. On the day of judgment, the water and the soil will recreate together to again resurrect insan. So the water will come, resurrect our bodies again, and this will happen on the day of judgment. And lastly, I'll mention before we finish, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here the word bu'thir. Bu'thira. Allah mentions, أَفَلَا يَعْلَمُ إِذَا بُعْثِرَ مَا فِي الْقُبُورِ وَحُصِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. So on the day of judgment, Allah will mention to the people, don't you know, that we will resurrect whoever is in the qubur, whoever is in the qabrs, the graves, we will resurrect them. So bu'thira is mentioned. How will that happen? It's through the rain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give down. وَإِذَا الْقُبُورُ بُعْثِرَتْ. That will come out again. So bodies will be recreated. Just like how Allah mentioned Surah Taha, مِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى, for the second time. So just like the first creation of Adam alayhi salam, where water was used and clay was used, and then it was hollowed out to become Adam alayhi salam, and in every single creation water was used for for growth. How each and every single insan comes from water, a dirty fluid. And then on top, right at the end, وَنُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى, will come out again on the day of judgment. Allah mentions, كَمَا بَدَأْنَا أَوَّلَ خَلْقٍ نُعِيدُ وَعْدًا عَلَيْنَا, that the first time how we created you, we'll do that again on the day of judgment. This is the hashr which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, and this is what will happen on the day of judgment. After the sur is blown, after the trumpet is blown, then the gathering will happen, and the gathering will be such a gathering which will come from the skies, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will let the rain down, and all of our bodies will come back together again. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, for protection, and for acceptance of all of our siyam and our qiyam and everything that we've done in this life, and we make such that our Ramadan becomes beneficial for us, and really turning a page of something which is good, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with us on this day, on this month of Ramadan, and also on the day of judgment when we come to meet Him. Allah must be pleased with us as well. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, for protection of all our, all the fitnas outside, protection from the fire of Jahannam, protection from the adhab of qabr, protection from all of the difficulties on that day of judgment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance in this dunya and guidance, and keep us on guidance. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for acceptance of all of our worship, acceptance for all of our siyam, our fasting, our standing, and our struggling in this dunya. We ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for also forgiveness of all our sins, our minor sins, our major sins. Allah, forgiveness for everything that we have done, knowingly and unknowingly, public and also private. And Ya Allah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it such that whatever is happening in this dunya, Ya Allah, grant ease for the people, grant ease for our community, grant ease for the ummah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma aghfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat wal muslimina wal muslimat al ahya minhum wal amwat. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ameen. Inshallah, everyone's requested to go towards the tent, inshallah, for the iftar. I think we'll be starting in the next few minutes, inshallah.